Hey guys, welcome back to the show. In this week's episode, we had an awesome conversation with Ami Kozak, one of the most talented impressionists, comedians, political commentator, and musician that I had the privilege of speaking with. By the end of this week's episode, you learn about what it's like having multiple full-time jobs as an entertainer, what's funny and what's not funny, and what truly matters when creating content and engaging with your audience. We learned a lot this week, and we think you will too. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Ami, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, fellas.
It's really great seeing you, man.
This is fun.
Yeah, last time we saw you was in Washington Square Park. You were dressed up as Santa, and we almost blew your cover.
Yes, you did.
To add a little bit of context, he was doing like this Christmas episode about like naughty, who's on Santa's naughty list.
Yeah.
And we saw him. He's like, "You're gonna blow my cover, you Jews."
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We were trolling pro-Palestinian, NYU students and whatnot. I find Washington Square Park is probably the place I feel the least safe right now in the world.
For sure.
That's like a real cesspool of moral bankruptcy. So I kind of did this thing working with some people in approaching people undercover as Santa during last holiday season. It was like a naughty or nice bit. And
Right.
It started off, Beyonce, naughty or nice. Taylor Swift, naughty or nice. Help me make my list. Bill Gates, naughty or nice. Hamas.
Right.
And they had to,
I saw the video. People were like dumbfounded.
Yeah, they were so
Yeah.
like they were like taking them back. Was it like more or less pro Hamas than you expected?
More. The second it's
Wow.
one, I'm like, are
That's
you
crazy.
kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, then I expected, right? It's a
Right. How much
hard
did you
thing to say.
expect? Yeah.
Unfortunately, way more than anyone would be comfortable with. The problem is you are tempted to maybe attempt to educate somebody, but
Right.
I'm the one dressed as Santa Claus. So
No, they're not going to listen.
at that point,
Santa.
it's a little hard. I find that pranks, generally, I feel a little better about them when it's all in good fun. When it's not, it's a little bit icky. I mean, it makes a good point, and I think those videos expose certain things.
Right.
But it comes at a cost of a little bit of I don't want to say integrity, but because you're there for some sort of trickery, it feels a little icky, but it's almost sometimes worth the squeeze
In
to
general,
expose what's going
sorry
on.
about that. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring this up later, but in comedy, it's like this a lot. Even for what's his name, Matt Walsh with "What Is a Woman," and a lot of what he does.
Love
it's-
What Is a Woman.
That's so good.
A lot of that to me,
Yeah.
it's a little too aggressive. It's like
Right.
you didn't have to do all that. There may have been a nicer way to do this.
Then just asking what is a woman? It's a simple question. Simple question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of like gotchas,
Yeah.
and I just wonder if there's another medium aside from comedy, or not. He's not comedy, obviously. But-
well, the point of a satire is to expose, not to engage. You're not
Mm.
really trying to have a good faith conversation. He's trying to show you how ludicrous this stuff is. If they were willing to engage in good faith debate on that side, then there would be more of it. There
Right,
isn't
right.
because they're not willing
and
to.
the videos wouldn't exist
Which
if they
videos?
his whole documentary. All
Maybe not.
Like they would just be having a normal conversation. That would be
If this
fine.
was rational and up for real discussion and scrutiny, then you wouldn't need the comedy. But
Right.
because it
That's why it
isn't,
works.
you weaponize the comedy effectively in a satirical fashion to reveal just how insane it is. And yeah, it's deceptive. But that's what that is. That's the school of Sacha Baron Cohen's or Religious or these documentaries that expose, sometimes for comedic effect, for political effect, and for both. But that's what satire is. I mean,
Right.
it's not purely for the sake of comedy.
So
And
how
the
do you know
same
when
thing
you're
as
taking it
dressing
too
up as
far?
Santa Claus, you're not just doing it for the joke. You're doing it to highlight a real resonant truth, which can be unpleasant. Doing it in a way that's digestible. So
Is Santa coming back this year?
I don't think I'll do that one again. I mean, that was fun, but I had some really, for everything you see in the final edit, there's a fair amount of very unpleasant experiences
Ooh.
that
Like
come
what?
with it. Like Hamas supporting 25-year-olds who start to argue with me.
Yeah, generally not
Yeah,
fun
and you're
to
just
be
like,
around.
you really exist, these people. I was talking to this
Crazy.
one girl explaining how it was in Santa's voice. I was like, they're throwing gay people off of rooftops in Gaza. How could you support? And this lesbian black woman next to us starts yelling at me for using, how dare you use my identity? I'm an LGBTQ woman. How dare you use my identity to support what you're saying? I'm like, you're saying you care more about me using your identity than the actual people who share your identity being persecuted in Gaza. Interesting. But luckily, I think we're moving all past that. The woke stuff is dying.
Yeah.
You know.
I think yeah, that's the feeling in the
Where
air.
we're at right now.
Also,
Everybody
that
knows it.
day-
Everybody knows it.
Yeah, I
Also,
feel
that
it.
day, I don't know if you remember, something crazy happened. Were you there?
What's that?
Oh my
That-
god.
it was
When you were there?
crazy.
Oh, you mean the display that was going on?
The
in
display.
The
Speaking of
display.
like this issue, well, then I
Yeah.
bumped into you guys, and you were like, "Excuse me, are you?" I'm like, "Shut up! I am not. Oh, I am Santa. Shut up." You
Oh
guys
my
came
God.
over, and we're trying to like say, "Hey, are you?" I just wait till I'm out
aren't
of the
you
Santa
Ami
costume
Kozak?
and in safe quarters here, and then we can chat.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get into your life a little bit. So you have a wide range of talents, obviously, across the world of entertainment.
Mm.
You have like 4 or 5 full-time jobs.
Right.
So why, like, would you ever consider like sticking to one thing, or why don't you just put all your eggs in one basket?
Well, luckily, I'm able to. Just kidding. Why not put all my
It's
eggs in one?
wild.
Why not put all my? Why put my? I'm trying to figure out your question.
Meaning
why?
you're
what
doing
is
you're
that?
doing all these things. You like meaning
Yeah.
You're again when it comes to music, political commentary, comedy. Do you ever think about just going all in on one of those things, or why do you feel like maybe talk about how each one speaks to you? I'm just curious how
Yeah.
it's like for you.
There's a debate sometimes internally over like there's a sense that you can have diminishing returns if you're spread too thin. On the flip side, diversifying and doing a bunch of different things and seeing what sticks is what a creative needs to do
Mm.
to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And it's very risky to put all your eggs into one thing. But at the same time, you're sort of planting seeds when you're a creative and you're farming, and then what sprouts up is what you tend to. So I plant a musical seed, it sprouts up, I tend to it. And it gives me benefits, and I see the fruits of that labor. And then I try a little comedy, a little content. Those start sprouting up. Maybe
Interesting.
a lot of them, so I tend to those. And then I'll do a little some sketch comedy stuff. You get a reaction there. I do a little bit of advocacy commentary stuff, which had its own sort of other motivations beyond building an audience or doing content. It was sort of a little more deeper and beyond that. It wasn't a career decision per se to do that. That
Right.
was a moral decision from a place of, I guess call it a passion. I wasn't thinking in terms of all that. That just felt like a necessity. Be, deeper than career, but at the core of one's identity. Finding yourself in a place post October 7th, and you have a platform. It's not political. It's not a space that I was looking to make political commentary. It was more like, hey, what are we and where are we in this world that we have the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust, and we're way too many people are kind of okay with it, apathetic to it. I mean, this is a reality that everybody woke up to, not just on October 7th, but then we found ourselves in October 8th, which was a very different place.
Right.
So that turned into a more consistent form of advocacy because that's what it turned into. I didn't even like the word advocate at first. It was just
Right. Advocacy
all
has a
these
weird-
labels you don't
yeah.
really like for yourself because they're all impostery until you do them enough until that's gone.
You feel like you do it more for how much of it is for yourself, and how much of it is for your audience or for others?
Which part?
Let's say comedy.
Yeah.
Because that's, I feel like, at least right now, what you're
Mhm.
known for I'm saying you're mostly known for.
Right.
Do you feel how much of it is like, I am very passionate about this, I really enjoy it, and I want to speak about things that I'm interested in?
Yeah.
And how much of it is that versus I think that this is what people want to hear, I think that this is what people are interested in, I think people are going to be happier if they listen to it. When you're doing it, is it more like coming from you, or in like what I want to do, or is it what other people want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really, it's not healthy to be driven by what other people want from you in a sense primarily, but that doesn't mean you can't be aware of what resonates with people. Building an audience is building a relationship and giving of yourself in that relationship. If you just imagine if you're like dating someone, you say, listen, whatever you want me to be, I'll be. It's a pretty lame pitch. Nobody wants a person like that who's just fully malleable and has nothing to offer
Right.
but what that person wants. But that doesn't mean when you're in a relationship, you're fully self-interested and selfish and give no kind of compromise and understanding. As you grow that relationship, it gets deeper and you can start to explore the multidimensional parts and facets of yourself. But I would say this, that you have to love the things you're doing and the process by which you're doing it, not for the sake of growing an audience and becoming famous. You want to grow an audience and become famous so you can continue doing the thing you love doing. It's not the other way around.
Right.
A lot of people get into the game and they're like, oh, I want the highlight reel, the glitz and glam. But if you hate what you do along the way, even if you get recognition, you won't be happy. You'll be burnt. You won't like it. You won't like what you're doing, because ask any musician or comedian, artist, like, they love the thing they're doing. So now they have to figure out how to commoditize it, monetize it, so that they continue to do the thing they're doing. Like, this started before there was career, you're jamming with your friends in high school and you're making music or you're making jokes and you're like, wow, this is really fulfilling and soul sustaining. I want to do this. So now it's like, not only do I love it, but I think I might be actually good at it. And you find that intersection. I sound like Scott Galloway here. See, for young man, you want to find the intersection of what you're good at, what you're passionate about. Forget what you're passionate about. Find what you're really good at. Find what
They plug
it's
you.
just a disaster. It's an absolute disaster for young men sitting here in a studio who haven't had sex within the last year. This is a disaster for young men. It's just an absolute disaster. But
They love that
anyway,
impression so much that they shouted you out.
like
So
that.
We're
Yeah,
gonna have
it's just
so many guests on
just an
today.
absolute disaster. It's just a disaster. Anyway, my point is, if you find what you're passionate about and the intersection of what you're good at, because not everything you're into you might be good at, and that's a self-awareness game of figuring that out. And a lot of people are into certain things and then they try it and maybe they don't get that reaction and it becomes more of a hobby than a career. But if you want people to pay for something and sustain you, and then you have to and find value in what you're doing, you gotta try these things and see what happens. And then don't lose sight of the fact that that it's the process of what you're doing, what you're creating, that you love. And getting more famous, getting recognition, building an audience is for the purposes of sustaining that ability to keep doing what you're doing, not the other way around. The other way around is a recipe for disaster, I think. Disaster.
And it's such a rare passion that you have for all these different areas or segments that you're in. I was going to ask if in 10 years you would see yourself doing all these things, still making music, still doing comedy, but it seems like the answer is an obvious yes. Like you have this passion of, you need to make music to express whatever emotions are in that. You need to do your comedy. I haven't really seen that before. Most people are just like, yeah, I do this, I like it, I enjoy it. But there's this burning need for all of this. That's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I'm just not that great at the other stuff. You know,
Which is the other stuff here?
I mean, you know, I don't know, like real estate and finance. I don't know, like the alternatives that are available to you.
Did you try getting into any of those
no.
alternatives?
No, because I started as I mean, that stuff, I was like, it's not, I only find it very unfulfilling and boring. I'm not great at it. Like the way people, like the business jargon, the talk, all that stuff that people kind of get into. There's a few options made available to you growing up in like an Orthodox Jewish community. And it makes sense why. Those are like, you know, there's a certain amount of stability that comes with that and people get into it. And I just had a very low threshold and tolerance for that stuff in terms of interest and ability. But I had a very, and on the flip side, I had a real inclination for the other stuff that maybe I was already in a percentage of people that, like, you know, wasn't just like hobbyist into making music, but like really took it seriously and was able to like fine tune the craft and hone in on it and work real hard to get really good and get into in a competitive space in doing so. So, you know, it's a
Do you think
combination
everyone has
of
that?
those.
Do you think everyone kind of has the same issue? They're sitting down at a desk job and they hate it, and they're just like, and I have these creative passions, but I want the desk job. It's stable. Or is it really, it's just a different personality. It's a different temperament.
It'd be a different personality. I mean, it's always hard to say if everyone just has equal amounts of talent and if they just all pursued it, they'd all be the same. I don't think that's true. I think what you're naturally good at is kind of revealed to you, and then you go in those specific directions. There's something, the relief in knowing what you're kind of meant to do is a nice thing to have. It's also kind of a burden in a sense, because it means like not doing that thing is quite painful. So you have a lot less options available to you in a way of like knowing that you have this burning thing you have to nurture and want to express can make doing anything else really less tolerable. And I don't judge anybody or whatever for pursuing other things. There's plenty of other good reasons to do those things. certain amount of talent you're born with, certain amount of talent you nurture over time. I have seen hard work outpace talent. A lot of people with talent who don't want to put in the work won't get anywhere, but people with a little bit less talent but a ton of work can get pretty far. So,
Were you always funny? Like growing up, were you like known as like a funny kid?
Yeah, that's the short answer.
What was high school Ami Kozak like? Like grades, everything. Give me the scoop.
High school Ami Kozak was a woman. No, I'm just kidding.
Your transition is phenomenal.
Pretty good, right? Yeah. Started wearing Doc Martens and I just had my tops. No, high school Ami Kozak was class clownish, funny, and instead of the impressions of famous people, it was all the rebbies and teachers and everybody else. So
Can you do any of your high school rebellion?
I probably could, but no one would understand them on this pod.
Did you do like pranks and stuff? You ever pull pranks on teachers?
I would do like, if you're on a school weekend trip, you pick up the phone and you start saying, I love the Jerky Boys and the early prank stuff, and I was very good at prank calls. That's for sure. Calling other rooms. You know what I mean? And excuse me, I'm sorry you're making too much noise. Shut it down. Who's your principal? Calling. I'm gonna call the front desk on you sons of bitches. That kind of thing. Yeah, a lot of prank calls. That was a big one. But yeah, old rebbies and teachers, perm shtick. I mean, that's where it all was born.
You were like the perm spiel,
yeah.
like main attraction.
Yeah, we had a perm spiel my senior year of high school, which was I played the crocodile hunter, and the school was like this massive jungle, so I went around filming like, wow, well, here at TIBC, look at it, smelly, disgusting creatures. Look at them just sleeping all day, and they eat ferocious amounts of food. Look at that. Wow. And it killed.
Is your high school proud of you? Like where you're at right now?
I think so. I was good at not being mischievous, but like charming enough that the teachers
also found it funny.
So they had to be like, Ami, you gotta get out. But they were like fans. If you make the teachers laugh, that's your in for not being like a bad kid, but also being able to have fun.
But that takes a
lot.
lot.
I played a lot of music too. So
that takes a lot of skill to be funny enough that even the teachers are like, damn, that's so funny. That's good.
It's also the right type of funny, probably. I feel like a lot of people are like funny almost.
Everyone in high school tries to be funny, and most of them are just annoying. And I'm sure I had a fair bit of annoying. It's like, you're rabbi, you're rabbi, yo, rabbi. Remember that kid? Yeah. Yo, rabbi, we go out later, rabbi? Rabbi, can we chill later, rabbi? You know those kids.
Yeah.
And you're like,
exactly.
When you're there and as an adult, you witness this, you're like, this kid thinks he's hilarious.
Right.
But I wasn't that kid. Maybe I was a little. Everyone has doses of it. I mean, we're all just raging at that point in life. And, you're trying to just get attention and all those things. But
So at what point did you decide that comedy was something that you want to pursue more of?
Not until way later. I was never even considering becoming a comedian in any sort of realistic sense for a career. There was no way to do that. Other than, I don't know, like, comedy was like my personality. It wasn't my profession. So I was just like perfectly fine being funny with friends. And, I would hear over the years, yo, you should do stand up. You should try to get on SNL with all these impressions. But I was more on the musical route because music is a lot more like structured. There's a pathway with music. There are music schools, there's music programs.
I hear that, yeah. There's no comedy school.
Music, there's technical training. There's no real technical foundation for comedy.
None of those things are really like lucrative. Like you're not going to make money if you're...
They're all risky because they're risky. But with music, at least you can... I was studying with a teacher, and then I was on the path to I was playing in bands in high school and had a band in high school, and then in Israel I was jamming and playing with a lot of people, and decided to go to music school, Berklee College of Music in Boston, and major in music. There was just a structure to it from a career standpoint. Like there's a music business out there in which there's all these different things, and my Jewish brain was like, okay, maybe I can write for advertising, get into the advertising side of things, and that's more stable, and I don't have to just be on the road trying to play with a band and make it like a rock star. I can do more things but still get to make music. So that's the path I pursued career-wise, which was what I started in, music for advertising, film, TV. I started making and composing music for advertising. That was my first at-bat doing that stuff, and I had success in getting stuff on TV and commercials. I started composing out of school. I majored in music for film and TV, music for visuals, songwriting. And then that was already, once I made that choice, I'm like, okay, I'm going a little bit of a departure from your typical thing. And started doing that kind of stuff my first couple of years out of college. got some stuff in commercials, moved out to LA, kept doing that, and then started my band out there called Distant Cousins. And we started licensing our original music that we were making for our records for
Yeah, we were listening to it or before you came.
for film, TV, commercials, trailers. And most of my time in LA was spent in the music business, making it and growing in the music business as a band and as a composer, doing all that kind of work. Comedy was not even, was like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting. Would you ever try stand up or ever try to do it? Maybe, I don't know. Like pipe dream, lofty, not even, just like some kind of indulgence that I never, like a child, I kind of neglected. All my stuff was focused on the first child, which was, or I don't know what order you consider it. One child being music, the other child being comedy. One was getting all the attention. Come around 2019 is when I took to social media and started using it as not just a promotional tool, which was, I had used it before that way, which was sort of a mistake, or like I think misguided. It was more of I used it as a way to like actually make stuff for it that was entertaining in and of itself. And comedy, I was doing some music stuff, whatever, just starting to make videos very painfully. I didn't know how to film anything. I put up a GoPro. I'm like, oh, things on GoPros look cool. So I'd like film on a Go. It's like, what can look cool on camera the easiest? Then I had a little GoPro.
Were you promoting your music or like just making comedy? Like you just went right into comedy?
I just went on Instagram with 3 followers and started making stuff for it on my own page, The other stuff, I had like a personal account, which is private, which I still have, which is like for like my kids are up there and family photos and whatever that was at the time. This is like 2017, 18, whatever. But then let's start like a professional account and like try to make stuff and see what happens. And I just making different things, musical things. It was scattered and all over the place and kind of painful and sloppy and bad lighting and all that stuff. But then I started doing TikToks, TikTok was like not a household name at the time. It was like not brand new, but not everybody knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught a good wave on TikTok. And then I was ready to start doing, what happened was I started just doing like impression videos. And then after a few months of doing consistent videos, I sat in my car and did a Gary Vee video. And this I've spoken about on many podcasts, but just a quick story. I threw my phone up in the car and I was just like, I'm just so sick of 40-year-olds complaining that they're not killing it, right? Like if you want to win, move to Louisiana and start a peanut butter brand, right? Like peanut butter. And that video like exploded, that was like my first real TikTok moment, viral.
Was that your first, and that was your first like impression video, right?
No. I've been doing random ones every day. I don't know.
Why do you think that one was it?
I mean, because Gary Vee, I just hit that, cross section that day of whatever's going on. Gary Vee was really ubiquitous and everywhere on the internet, dominating internet culture. And no one had done a Gary Vee. I don't think there were impressions of him. Whatever reason, it clicked, and within a day or so had a few 100,000 views on TikTok, got shared by Barstool Sports on Instagram.
Nice.
I didn't even know what Barstool Sports was. And I'm like, Barstool Sports, message me. What is this? They want a video? It was like it was so early to this stuff. Everyone's like, Barstool Sports, the pizza stuff. I'm like, oh, what is that? I was like, just getting into it. So they shared that. And that overnight kind of gave me at least a couple thousand people that I felt like I had an audience. And then I started doubling down and doing a ton of the Gary Vee stuff and sketches and comedy. Long story short, built up a nice organic audience online through comedy, which was the easiest and organic way people were responding to it. I was going to start doing stand-up, and then that was around February, March of 2020. Everything shuts down.
Right.
So no live anything. So I just kind of kept reinvesting in the time and resources to build up the social media stuff until things started opening up again, and I started hitting the stand-up scene in LA, eventually moved to New York a couple years ago and hit up that scene pretty aggressively and doing stand-up on a regular basis to build up my chops. And I've been playing music on stage for 15 years, so I had a slight advantage.
Got it.
But stand-up's a different beast entirely, so that brings us to today. And then post-October 7th, you have the advocacy stuff, which kind of added a little bit of a lane to things, but that's fairly recent.
What's like the process of developing an impression, or like really getting good at an impression, or does it come really like easy and natural for you?
The latter, and with impressions, they're not so teachable.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I've gotten better at certain impressions over time as they become more integrated, the nuances of a person or whatever. But
which one would you say? Which one would you say has like gotten better over time?
I mean, they all kind of do. I just saw an old video of a Trump I used to do, and it was just like, just a disaster, total disaster what's going on in this country. It's so bad, so bad. And now it's totally perfected. I mean, I really got
Wow.
Yeah.
totally, it went from just total disaster, the pauses, the inflections, the body language. I mean, you have to know, especially when you're on a podcast, it becomes really, really a little more soft. People don't do the podcast Trump. Podcast Trump is
Joe Rogan.
is very different. Yeah, you know that.
He's
And
so
you know
quiet,
that.
yeah.
I mean, Joe Rogan's a great guy.
He's-
Did a lot of favors for
Name
me.
drop.
3 hours we went so long. I was late to Michigan, so late. And as the person becomes more integrated, you know, that takes time. It really does. But you're not a Kamala person, and there was so much blood, all those different things. In the beginning, it was just like, what a disaster, total disaster. It was like this like caricatured version.
Right. It's so much more than the voice and the tone
The
itself.
visual, yeah.
It's
Intonation.
it's like it's like
I know
the
a word.
things that they say and like how they say it.
There's a lot of components, but there's a lot of visual components that people don't realize is what makes an impression. You can't get up there and say, total disaster. Oh my, it's. I haven't even said anything yet, and you can
I know
Yeah,
you're Trump.
exactly.
you can
I
kind of
know you're
see it
Trump.
because you become the person you really do. And I barely have to do anything.
You're like an actor.
Yeah.
But you get in their head too,
Yeah.
Like-
Get in their head.
because you have these monologues that seem like they're just off the cuff, but they're so accurate,
Right.
and they're not things they've ever said.
Yeah.
The peanut butter thing. Like, where do you come up with that?
I mean, I improvise it, but it's the idea, you know. It's the Gary V-isms of just that's what you're playing on.
Also
Oh,
going,
it's so easy. Go to Louisiana and start a peanut butter brand and you'll become famous.
also
It's like,
going
what?
back to Gary V. You said
Yeah.
that there was like there's impersonations that were not out there yet.
Mhm.
Are there any impersonations that are not out there yet that you would like to do?
It's a good question. The other day I did James Spader on my page because I've never seen impressions. James Spader. Never done him on my Instagram before, but everybody needs an umbrella until you don't need an umbrella, and then it becomes quite a nuisance. And in the past, no one else has really explored the various ways by which a James Spader impression can come into being, but I'm trying it.
So good.
Pretty good.
It's very much baby stages, and I know that, but sometimes in the fetal stages is when things can truly develop at a very organic level. Tony Stark. Yeah.
What about Ari Matty?
Ari Matty, yeah. I comedian on the Austin circuit.
Yeah, that Kill Tony
Kill
guy
Tony.
is hysterical.
The other day, I saw a couple get into an argument. I turned around, you know that glorious sound when you pause your own music? Turns out it was two gay guys, and I thought, wow, both made sense.
It's
Two
crazy.
logical brains going at it. He's amazing.
You're
Oh,
literally
good.
him.
You're literally him. Do you like get
So
annoyed
it's,
sometimes?
it's not some people say you could teach it. Just
Right.
there's a whole thing you got to do, and it's kind of like, I don't know, what's the equivalent? Like perfect pitch. You know, somebody's
Yeah.
like, "That's an F sharp." How do you know? Can you teach
Yeah,
me? I mean, I have
exactly.
relative pitch, so I can tell you one note from another note, but perfect pitch or like,
like natural, yeah.
other
it's
kinds
nature.
of things that you're kind of born with.
Well, how do you know
You
what
know.
your voice is at this point? Because you
What's
could
that?
do anything.
How do I know what my voice is?
Yeah, people talk about it with singing also.
Yeah.
Once you have enough control, it's like
Yeah.
you could just choose what your voice is.
I guess the one voice I haven't chosen is my own voice.
Yeah, what's your real voice? What do you really sound like?
Okay, fine, guys. Here's the jigsaw. Oh, so hard to keep it like this. I just want to be honest and open with you guys. But man, oh man, that's hard to do. I'm freaking Mickey Mouse. No, I don't know. That the voice, you don't choose that one.
Have you made your voice more interesting just because like you could do it?
In what sense? In life?
Like, did your voice sound like this 10 years ago?
It didn't sound like this 30 years ago. It was probably a little higher, but my voice is the one voice I don't think about, you know, is this one. You don't think about your own voice. That's the voice you have. The other ones are conscious.
Are you a better singer because you could do these impersonations? Or
That's
you're a better impersonator because you could do singing?
I'm probably a better speaker and debater because of these impressions. I think if you impersonate intellectuals for like 5 years straight, you might get a little better at putting sentences together. I've noticed that.
You doing a Ben Shapiro makes you a better...
Absolutely. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, dude. I mean, I don't even do Ben that much. It's just like asinine. It's just like ridiculous. That's all I can do is Ben.
I don't think I've heard your Ben Shapiro impression. That's really
I don't
good.
really do one. I mean, absolutely. I mean, dude, it's like you could do that if you want.
You're right. He does scrunch his face.
I mean, yeah, you could say that if you want.
look
Democrats.
disturbed.
I mean, dude, it's just like, and then he'll drop curses to like give himself a little.
Yeah,
Like,
a little-
if you're just like, if you're effed up, if it's just like effed up and it's just like bullshit, then it's just like bullshit. Love Ben. But I probably taught myself how to sing from impersonating singers. That's how I probably learned how to sing at an early age by impersonating the sound of a vocalist.
Who was the first like singer that you impersonated, or one of the first?
It wasn't even that. I would just like, you'd go to Joseph on Broadway with your family, and like you'd hear these Broadway singers all go, "Ah!" And I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing. Singers shake their
Right.
voice. But over the years, yeah, I could do a ton of different singers. I can sing AC/DC and Michael Jackson, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that used to go.
What's that?
AC/DC used to go. Depending on which
what's it?
singer it was, because
That's
they
like
had
a
two
parrot.
singers.
That's not. It's not AC/DC.
No,
No, but AC/DC,
No.
you have to go like
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how you don't hold back. Just silence.
I hope
and
I don't
you go
click
right into
like
that.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, do you get annoyed when people ask you to do impressions?
1 second, Tzvi.
Yeah, I gotta let him finish.
Gotta wait
You
your
know.
turn.
There. There's little Michael Jacksonisms.
Thank you.
Ooh, that's just ignorant. That's just ignorant. That's just ignorant.
We got him on a roll.
No, these questions are just ignorant because when you're learning how to sing, you have to find your own voice.
What's in that cup?
That's what you have to do. Fentanyl.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Do you get well, I guess I know the answer now, but do you get annoyed when people ask you to do impressions? But I guess you love it. You love to do it so much at the same time.
Do I get annoyed? It depends
like
when
poking a
it
monkey with a stick.
happens. Some people are more gracious about it and classy about it than others, but not really. I mean, I work hard for people to know I do impressions, so you can't really complain when they ask
It's
you to
true.
do them.
Yeah, it's a good
You
point.
know?
Yeah, but it's
So-
not like poking a monkey with this. Like do an impression.
Well, I have a
Jordan
lot of
Peterson,
Jewish
like that.
fans, so it's like, oh my God, please do this.
Yeah.
Boom. But
Do that
What?
Trump thing again.
it's
Do
not
that.
so bad. There are
Right.
way worse things in life than
Can you do
people
women?
wanting you to entertain them
I guess so.
because they
That's
know
yeah.
you can, right?
Can you do any like women impressions?
One in particular as of recently
Which
that
one?
I'm retiring very soon.
The Jersey Mom,
No.
Come on.
Mama
I don't know. I
Kamala.
said it's so weird. Like I said no.
Mala.
Yeah.
You saw
Kamala
that SNL
Harris
thing where they
did a
kept
lot.
saying her name
She did a
differently?
lot for me over the past couple of months,
Really?
So, of course. And I want to be clear about this. Eventually, there will be a time when the passage of time is so great that there will be days and months and years that go by. And we must acknowledge the work that needs to be done. Because this is important.
Dude,
We're
I'm
going to do it again in
dying.
2024.
Well, even for Kamala, she has different voices herself.
Yeah, that's funny. But that's more from a very inauthentic place because
Right.
she's a
You're making the cameraman
consummate
geek.
panderer. I mean, she just has no real self or identity. That's evidence that we've seen that her whole campaign was just, who am I talking to and how do I try to pander to them? Which was totally self-defeating in the end. Because if you don't take any positions for yourself or have any of your own ideas in the world of the internet, we can see right through it.
Why is comedy so political? Like Tony Hinchcliffe coming
Hmm.
to a Trump rally, and you hear like Dave Chappelle.
Or every
Taking
comedy sketch
political
has,
takes.
every comedy sketch is political also. Or every not everyone, but like a lot of them are very political.
Why is that they merge so well?
Yeah, well, I'd say there's different reasons that I think for so long as like the mainstream legacy media, Hollywood entertainment has become dominated by the left and becoming like megaphones for the left. Like every single late night show host thinks the same way politically. And when Colbert gets up there and does shtick for the vaccines to try to promote like real political agendas, and it's really boring and not funny. And SNL just for years and years, they make fun of Rogan for taking ivermectin. It's just like not funny, and it's all political. You're gonna get a backlash to that in the form of actual comedy, which isn't necessarily overtly political, but it's just mainstream common sense stuff that reflects what people actually feel. Because when something is funny, it rings true. That's the only thing that makes it funny is it taps into something that's resonant. And it's maybe an exaggerated version of that. When it's not true is what you get in these caricatured versions of like, mainstream sort of liberal circles. And people are like, this is cringe. Why? Because it doesn't really resonate. It only highlights how out of touch you are with everybody. So Hinchcliffe getting up there, he's like, no, normally I wouldn't endorse a candidate. It's very divisive. He would,
Good, dude.
wow, unbelievable.
I need to hear Shane Gillis.
Unbelievable. Oh, dude, dude, come on, dude. It's not that it's political per se, but it's more like, this is what regular people think. And the Trump phenomenon has proved like that common sense meter and favorability meter has caught up with Trump, not the other way around. Like, as much as he's made more supporters, they've lost supporters. No one has created more Trump supporters than them by being so detached, so fringe, so lost in these ridiculous ideas. And funny lives where people are, when the culture that's resonant is where the funny is. So that's why you're seeing sort of this response. And it comes off as political in a sense, but it's not really, in the sense of like Steven Crowder or these online personalities who fancy themselves as comedians. Hillary Clinton is an idiot. I mean, that's not really comedy either. And maybe there's a satirical element to it, but I would say like Tony Hinchcliffe is up there because he wants to be able to just make jokes and advocate for free speech and everybody just have a good time and laugh. And who supports those causes and those ideas more? The right now. Or the right of center is where the sensible people are that knows we're just joking.
Right. And within the comedians themselves, you see them roasting, at least the actually funny ones.
Mm-hmm.
The good comedians that are funny are the ones that are more right-leaning, or at least their jokes are making fun of more of the left.
Yeah, well, it's just, where's the absurdity? Where's the stuff to point out?
Absurd left comedians. Also.
There are some, yeah. No, there's definitely some, but I think across
like
the board,
who?
You can't name them
Tell me
as
who's
easily.
funny.
I actually know a lot of comedians and I can't think of any.
Tell me.
Well, Shane Gillis also makes fun of Trump, but it's different.
Shane Gillis, like his whole thing that he's a guy from like, I don't know, somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think. And then he's like now like taking like liberal.
But that's a brand. These people aren't, they don't fall on political lines. It's not like we have Republican comedians now. We just have comedians who generally believe in being able to joke around about things freely and openly. And then you have people who are against that. And where do the people who are against that fall politically? They fall left of center. Who are the ones who want to control speech, police speech, tell people what they can and can't joke about? They fall along the left. And like the whole Dave Chappelle like transgender thing, when he's making jokes, like, well, you just can't joke about this protected class or this protected groups. That's dominated on the left. That's what who's protesting Dave Chappelle specials,
Right.
Now, to be fair, there's Trump supporters who get upset about Trump jokes, but in general, I would say like for in the Trump world, like the real Trump diehards believe you can joke about anything,
right,
except for Trump.
They know he's
and on the left,
oh, really?
they can joke about, you can say anything you want about Trump, but you can't say anything about anything else.
Right.
So you could say like, I hope Trump burns in hell and his whole family dies in a car crash, and no one finds it funny. Right. But on the Trump side, but it's less so. It's just less so on the right of center.
Yeah.
That's where, like, you're seeing a renaissance of a coalition of people that don't agree on every political policy, but they agree on an open, free society, an actual one where there's not just diversity of skin color, but diversity of ideas and thoughts. That lives in the right of center now. And comedy is going to live there. It's not going to live on the oppressive thought police, language police side of things that tell you how to pronounce and talk and all of that stuff. Comedy can't live there.
Yeah. So. I want to bring it back for a second, back to the Kamala impression. So Ben Shapiro, one of like Ben's like reaction videos were like up to your impression. I think you're involved with Daily Wire a little bit, no? Didn't you do a paid promotion with them?
Yeah, I've been doing some work with them.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way it looks like from the outside, it's just like Ben Shapiro react videos are like really, really popular now.
Mm-hmm.
Were you working with them beforehand, or that was like they just found you?
Kind of the stuff I've done for them is really unrelated to Ben's reaction thing. They put stuff in front of him that's like viral, and he reacts to it. He's reacted to some Jordan Peterson stuff I've done.
What's that like for you?
That
him reacting, or I guess general like people reacting, like
cool.
reaction videos.
It's cool. It's a good day. You know, it's like nice.
Yeah. It's mostly positive reactions.
Yeah,
because you're good.
Yeah, it's what can you say? Those little treats along the way of being a creator is the little blips of recognition. Those are nice days. They're little anchor points. Like, all right, something's working. You don't want to aim to live for those days. Like, you just want to keep going. But they're nice indicators that things are working.
Right, and what comes with that is fame and recognition, and just people, I guess. Yeah, just people recognizing you
and all the things you think.
It doesn't feel like you think it feels.
or like most
That's
people
what I want to know.
perceive.
Yeah.
Going viral or having like real cool, like it's cool, but it is fleeting.
Mm.
Within a day or so, you got to get back to work, or even less time than that. I opened Gary V's conference, VCon, with Gary V. And so it doesn't mean like, so you're like set now. That's not true. Like in any real way.
But it definitely feels like that from the outside.
I know. And that's what people think happens. Like you're just like, okay, so like you're there.
You made
Yeah,
it.
you
There
made
is no
it, yeah.
singular destination point. You are just, it's a continuum. And things grow and increase. And yes, it causes a certain reverberation of your profile. But it's very much not a binary thing in which all of a sudden you snap your fingers. We have this perception of like the rat race in Hollywood and making it in that sort of way that it's a very snap your fingers thing. But it's, the Beatles played in a basement for like 15 years before their first record. And we see the overnight success. The phrase is 10 years to an overnight success, You've heard
think
that
it's-
expression?
What's up?
You've heard the expression 10 years to an overnight success?
That's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
No, I
so-
never heard of it.
It makes sense.
that's
There's a
the
lot of
idea.
truth to it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You think that phenomenon is exaggerated in entertainment because it's so dependent on relevance? Where in business, maybe once you're doing well, you kind of have a portfolio of skills.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's just purely, what are you up to now? Do people care about you now? Are you hot? Are you trending?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel there's certainly something built into the nature of the business that feeds into that perception. But these days, you can create your own little micro audiences. And so you're much more emancipated to do the things you want to do and maintain and sustain an audience over the long term because you're less dependent on mainstream gatekeepers of entertainment. That perception you're highlighting was really like, what are they up to now? What are they doing now? Are they hot now? Are they trending? Well, if they want to keep, producing and sustaining their audience and maintaining a relationship, then they are, they're trending with 300,000 people. They're not trending with millions of people, but it was very much like that back then, where it seemed like people would just appear and disappear. I don't think that really happens anymore
But now
in
when
the world of the internet.
when you get a bunch of videos with 1 million views,
Yeah.
and now you sit down to make a new one, and not all of them are getting 1 million. Some of them are getting a couple thousand. Is there any fear or anxiety when you're creating something new that just like it's over, it's done, this one won't do well?
Well,
what's
people
gonna
love
happen?
this. Will they not?
Is there fear?
Yeah. Is any part of it? I know when I'm making videos, and
Yeah.
some of them, none of them do amazing at this
Mhm.
point, but some of them do pretty well.
Yeah.
And every time it's like, what about the next one? You post and then you see how many views it's getting, and it's like, is it going to catch up? Is it not going to catch up?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's the aggregate, and it's like working out. You go to the gym. Some days you have a great workout, other days you don't. But if you try to take out the days that are only the great workouts, then you're only working out like twice a month, and you're not going to get ripped. If you want to get ripped and stay healthy and in shape, then you just show up every day and don't think about the singular micro results of each workout. You're like, I didn't see
David
a pump.
Goggins.
I didn't see a result. Yeah. I hate running. I hate running. People think I like running. Why do you like running? I want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. I hate running.
You saw that video where he goes to the moon?
I chopped my own leg off just to see if it would regenerate. That's what I wanted to do. I want to chop my leg off. Why? Because why am I running against these people with 2 legs? That's an advantage. I want to have a disadvantage to show what I could do.
Where do you come up with this dialogue? It's crazy.
You just got to know the thing, right? That's the joke of David Goggins.
Have you gotten more into working out, by the way?
No.
I heard a show from like 4 months, maybe 6 months ago, and you were talking about getting into the gym.
Hey, man. Yeah. Still.
They didn't let him in yet.
I'm like, I'm still figuring out how to crack that code because it's much harder. That's a difficult thing to do, like physical exertion.
Well,
But I
that's a
know
great
what to do.
perspective.
I have no questions about what to do.
Mm.
So I'm not looking for the hack.
Mhm.
There really isn't one other than showing up and doing it. How to get myself to do it is what I'm trying to figure out.
Are there other things in your life that like you know how to do, but like you just have not done it?
I mean, I have an MD and a law degree. No, I'm
Really?
just kidding. No.
He reeled us in.
I believed. You
I
gaslit me.
yeah,
yeah.
me too.
Other things that I know how to do
You
that I'm
speak
just,
like you have like an MD.
oh, thanks. That I just don't do?
Mhm.
Not really. I don't think so.
Doesn't do crime.
I can cook decently, but
I feel like you're like the chef type.
I can cook a little bit. Not amazing, but I know the fundamentals. It's I have basic fundamentals on cooking things.
Pasta, or are we talking like real stuff?
No real stuff. I mean, I could follow a recipe, and I can. But this is like just because it's commonsensical things over the years. But I would say I'm trying to think of other things. There's other things I want to get better at. Always instruments I want to improve upon, and And I'd love to learn how to dance a little bit better. I have decent instincts, but I never.
You were
really-
dancing before, no?
Was I? No. That would be fun. I would love to have that in my arsenal. But in general, improving my live show is my next big thing of like really souping that up into like something very competitive and kind of different and unique. Because I've been working on the stand-up separately from the music for a long time because I didn't want my experience in music, which I've had a lot of, to be this sort of crutch for comedy, which I had to develop. But on my long shows now, when I do like an hour, I'll incorporate some live looping, some Bo Burnham, Reggie Watts type of stuff. So that's my next kind of thing.
At this point, how often do you perform live?
I definitely try to perform live as much as possible. I would say it's in the, depending on the month, but multiple times a month I'm on stage performing. Yeah.
And what does that live show look like now?
Depending on how much time I'm doing on stage, if I'm with a band, we're doing our full set live, which we've done for years.
How long have you been together with them?
Since like 2012, 2013.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's been going strong for the past
Yeah. For
12
like,
years?
yeah, we just released an album, 6-song EP of our first English Hebrew record post October 7th. We'd been working on a record and we shifted into actually putting some Hebrew in there for some pride and solidarity and just kind of being like we hadn't done that. And there isn't a lot of Jewish artists that can sing in both English and Hebrew.
Sometimes it's cheesy. Like they
correct.
change
So-
from Hebrew to English. You're like,
So
"What the
we've
heck?"
always sang in English. So one of our members is Israeli and distant cousins. So like singing in Hebrew, we could do, but very few people can do both. And we felt like this was a cool way to contribute to the Jewish music world by bridging that. So we released an album called Out of the Darkness. We're on tour with Matisyahu this past summer and coming up in the winter.
How was that?
Great. It's just great. Matis has a very philo-Semitic audience. In other words, very pro-Jewish audience. Like,
Right.
When you're in the world of online, where
So it's not just Jewish.
no, it's Jews and then like
People
people
that
who
love
love
Jews.
Jews.
Who are those guys? Like,
Who are they? Sometimes they're Jews for Jesus, or like people who love the reggae spiritual Zion thing. Sometimes it's like Messianic Jews, or just like Christians who are very much like Jews are the apple of God's eye, the chosen people. I love how you're just like connecting and you're using God's word and you're like connecting to that because I believe in those. Like the biblical truth is biblical truth. And I know like I'm a Christian, but like for like the Jewish people, they've always stuck to God's truth. And
Who are
we
you
maintain God's
impersonating right
truth,
now?
and you guys are the people. Like I just believe that you're the chosen people. Like there's the people like that. But it's great to play in front of these audiences. And when you spend time online in a cesspool of anti-Semitism, when you actually get out into the real world and play in front of people and find a lot of love, it's a great thing.
What's that like, being on stage?
What's it like being on stage?
Yeah.
It's you want to be more specific?
I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended, but what are some of the cooler experiences you've had being on stage or being backstage?
Well, being on stage at its best is like a transcendent experience. You're like connecting, and then basically you don't want to be thinking about what you're doing. You're just kind of very present. It's a very present thing.
And does that always click? Or there's
Not always.
sometimes-
Sometimes you're just getting through it, just like anything in life. But when it's right, it's like whether it's comedy or music, you're in this sort of flow state where everyone is locked in, and that's a very present thing. It's almost like sexual, like
And it's in connection with the audience, right?
DJ gets
yeah,
that.
you're just like banging the audience. No, but it is like that.
Sensual, whatever you say.
Some experiences are just like whatever the motions, and sometimes it's like you're like very present in a way where you rarely are, and that's
Is it
what
super
transcendent
heightened?
is.
Like you have a ton of sound. It's just a ton of stimulation.
Yeah. So it's when you're really rehearsed and you're really prepared, and at a certain level, you're not thinking about what you're doing. You're experiencing it in simpatico with the audience, especially when you're making
What do you think
music.
it's
Because when you
worse
make
from?
music, you're listening to your own creation in real time that you're facilitating and channeling, but you're also inside of it with the audience. You realize like you're channeling something. So it's less of a like, I'm just doing this thing and hopefully you're listening. It's like we're all here in this space. Music is the language of God. So you are channeling the universe, the vibrations of the universe. What is music? I mean, it's a very weird thing. Like, what is that?
The sound waves, right?
Yeah, you're like
Think of it as
organizing
energy.
sound. If you think about it in a deep way, you're like, what's happening here? It's like
Mhm.
organizing sound, and everyone's starting to
Move their bodies.
move and focus and get locked in and be moved. It's strange. You're pulling it out of
Weird, yeah.
out of the ether. And comedy is a little more there's a part of it that's more above the surface where we can see like there's something tangible about doing comedy where there's a give and take that's very immediate, where you're telling the joke and if it lands, it lands. But it's hitting a certain subconscious because people laugh involuntarily in a sense.
Right.
With music, you have a little more protection, a little more armor in that way. But they're similar in the ways that they're similar is that you're just locked in. Yeah, they're kind of cousins in a similar family, but they have
Distant
different.
cousins.
Distant
There you go.
cousins.
Are you
They have different
inspired?
features for sure,
Are you-
and comedy is terrifying. Yeah,
Are you inspired like by Bo Burnham? How he like merges those two?
absolutely.
Like
yeah.
the Pringles can thing is crazy. Like
Yeah.
that has some like crazy like deep meaning. Do you
Mhm.
resonate with that?
Totally. Bo is has a different angle than I have with his stuff because it's a little darker and more jaded and cynical. But his ability to seamlessly go between funny, light to serious, deep subjects all within the span of one experience is really unique.
How would you merge like music and comedy? What would be Ami
I do
Kozak's
live
style?
looping. I have stuff in which I could sing, loop, create live a joke, like the actual joke, but in the form of a funny song,
Mhm.
maybe with some impressions all looped together, like that's one idea.
There's also the guy online who does the perfect pitch, or not perfect pitch, like he'll talk
auto-tune?
the auto tune
Yeah.
into the mic, and like he just
Morgan J.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
It's
He's
awesome.
great.
Really?
What's
Are
your
you, like-
name, girl?
Are you like in
Where
a
you
wide
from?
network?
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like in a wide network of all these like community? Like, what's that like? What are they like in person?
Different people, have online personas, on stage personas, and in person personas. Sometimes somebody like you really online you're not into is actually like really sweet and nice. And some people who are like the funniest people online like are kind of awkward, in real life when you meet them.
I would expect
Um,
them to be more I would expect comedians to be the same person in real life that they are on stage.
You find like the people who are harsh and brash on stage are super sweet off stage, and like the nice, squeaky clean guys could be kind of a douche
Oh
off
wow.
stage.
I'm super confused by like Dax Flames right
yeah.
now. Like I don't know what he's
What?
trying to do. You know this guy?
No.
He acts like super awkward,
Mm.
but like he's with all these
Like
high-level
anti-comedy guy
celebrities.
who's, like,
yeah.
Reading off a thing. I think I've seen clips of him.
It-
It's weird.
it's weird,
very
But
weird.
it's very believable. That might
Meaning
be
it's
why it
just
works.
awkward,
He
uncomfortable
was on
comedy.
21 Jump Street, I think.
I don't remember. I think he has long hair and he's like
Yeah.
sitting there like
Something like that.
reading
Yeah, yeah.
anti-comedy. There's something meta and deep about it. He's like doing anti-comedy.
Like I don't know. I don't know. What
Yeah,
he's
it's
trying
not comfortable to
accomplish.
watch, but that's the point, I guess.
Yeah.
He's intentional about
It's
it.
like I'm gonna give this pizza man $200 when it comes over,
Yeah.
and that's exactly the tonality that he's
Yeah,
using.
it's like on the spectrum comedy.
Yeah.
It's like Asperger's comedy, which isn't
Do you watch
autistic comedy.
Those
It's
guys
interesting.
cooking?
What?
Those two guys
Oh
cooking?
yeah, the chef, the two.
It's like
the
get down
there's
with.
three guys, the Down syndrome chefs. Theo Vaughn did a thing with them.
Yeah.
They make chicken with it. Like it was hysterical.
You haven't seen this?
Damn, homeboy. Yeah, I haven't. And he cooks with two Down syndrome chefs. Is this
Three.
real?
No, two.
It's two guys.
They're like, have you ever seen an Asian before? And they're Asian. They're like, no.
They're Asian. Are
They're
they actually?
Asian. They're from like they're like.
Are they
Asian-
actually Down syndrome?
Yes.
Or no?
They're from Australia.
Yes.
They're like
Huh.
one
Well, that's
of
interesting.
them's names is
but
Sean.
the thing
I
is
know
that they're like insanely good. They're
That's
really
cool.
really good cooks.
That's neat.
It's really
I think
awesome.
That's kind of cool.
Who are-
But in general, the community is cool. Like being a part of a community is neat. And I think on the online content creator comedian side of things, yeah, there's a bunch of people I've met in my journey online of like people I've connected with in person and formed relationship with, which is nice.
who are
Any-
s- there you go.
Anyone you want to meet?
I'm sure, yes.
I mean, I was gonna ask
Hard-
who your favorite comedians
Yeah.
are there are right now, and I'm assuming those are the people who you'd probably want to meet.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Andrew Schultz and Flagrant and that whole world. I love that. I love what he does.
That bit with Trump, Barron Trump is unleashed in New York City.
That was great. I like Andrew. I relate to Andrew a lot. I feel like I love the way he does his whole thing. As a stand-up is his driver of things, and then
Some people hate him.
has the podcast.
He's
and
very
whatnot.
neutral in like I mean, relatively.
Some
with
people
other
hate
comedy
Andrew
comedians.
Schultz.
A lot of people
sold
that
out
they're
the
like,
Garden.
he's not funny. A lot of people comment on his stuff.
It
Not
doesn't mean people
funny.
don't hate him.
It's like the Hans Kim stuff, if you know what that is.
Yeah, I know Hans. I've seen some of Hans Kim stuff, but I really like. I'm a fan of Andrew, and like also, I feel like there's a similar kind of way we look at things in that. He's funny, but he also likes to like talk about real things under the guise of just being silly. But there's a seriousness to Flagrant where they actually get, thoughtful about ideas and things like that, which I appreciate. So I love and I just love his ecosystem, like the world he's created, the podcast space, the do-it-yourself DIY approach that he's done. I've been a big fan of that. So that's one. Trying to think of who else. Who I'd like to meet. I don't know. I'm a fan of Corey Wong of Wolfpack. I don't know if you know these guys. Great content
familiar with them.
creator. Great
Wolfpack is a
content
band,
creator.
right?
Yeah, and the guitarist is an amazing musician and content creator, Jacob Collier. I'm a big fan
Yeah,
of.
of course,
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
love that. I love that. Hi. Oh, look, it's a red microphone. Look at that color. It's beautiful.
Look what sound it
That's
makes.
No,
so
it's like
cool.
tapping it. It's like
That's
B
cool.
sharp.
Do 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 do. Ooh, look at that. It's in 7/8 and it's 11/9. That's beautiful. Look at the rhythm. See that note in there? That's a G minor 7 chord right in the microphone. I love that. That's beautiful. That's cool.
There's music everywhere.
That's cool. He's a musical genius. I've seen him
Concerts are
live
wild.
when in a small club before he was huge, and I also saw Theo Vaughn in a small club.
No way.
I was doing a music show, and he showed up and did stand up at a club, and
What'd you think of it?
it was awesome. Nobody knew him. Who was this hillbilly who got up and cracked the room up? It was just like, hilarious. But you do see these people along the way before they kind of pop off, which is cool. I was at the Laugh Factory in 2011, and these people got up who were just kicking ass and slaying and murdering everyone one after the other. Who were they?
What does that
That-
mean?
What's
Like
that?
they were really good.
What do those words mean?
Yeah.
Means they were doing
Translate.
really well.
Okay, fine.
Osher Slay is good.
They were,
Yas.
no, they were killers, and it was Chris D'Elia, followed by Sebastian Maniscalco,
Oh wow.
followed by I can name the rest, all like A-listers now, but back then they were like up and coming at the Laugh Factory. But I saw them all right in front of me doing stand up. One night also, I went to the Comedy Store in maybe 2015, maybe early 2016 or something like that, and it was called Shadow Band. And on the headliners were Tim Dillon,
Hmm.
Andrew Santino, Andrew Schultz, and Tony Hinchcliffe.
Whoa.
The place was just shaking with laughter. I was like, right before I was getting into stand-up, I was like, wow, this is really powerful. It's like a pretty inspirational night. But, people knew Schultz a little bit. They knew Andrew Santino, but like Tim had no one at the line for him. He was just kind of new. And then
What
they
sets
all-
them apart? Why are they so much better than everyone else?
What sets them apart?
Yeah.
Great material, great joke writing, lots and lots of years in the game of stage time. You need all of it. They have great material and great jokes. Like, make no illusions about it. Vibe only gets you so far. Great jokes and
That's-
great angle.
That's something I think about a lot about
Material
comedians.
is everything. A good stand-up is good writing, and then the vehicle by which you perform it can come in different forms.
But
But
how do you write those usually?
how do you write jokes?
Yeah, like what's your process?
Yeah, you take a funny observation and then you really try to unpack it. It's a whole different thing of like joke writing is a whole skill and a craft like songwriting. Songwriting, you might have an idea about a song you want to write about. That's a unique idea, but then you have to package it in a certain way that has a good structure. Just like a song that has a good melody and a good hook. Your joke has to have a good kind of punch, delivery. It's the same kind of structure as creating anything.
Does that help?
Similar
with
kind of
you
arc.
creating content.
Hmm?
Does that help with creating content? The same process.
Joke writing? Yeah, because creating videos are a video online that's like a minute long is like a stand-up bit condensed into a minute. But then because it's a visual, you don't have to articulate the funny. Stand-up, you have to create the visual from scratch. When you watch a video, half the job is done. Even the title card, even like what it's labeled as is part of the joke. Like in my videos, like if it's I don't know, like if Trump was your masseuse, you know what I mean? But like that says it there already and you're watching it. But if I was on stage and doing it, you have to set it up. You have to give a little more context to have a buy-in for the audience to get into it. And generally jokes can be set up in certain ways where there's a premise, a setup, and a punchline. Those are the general joke structures that are a bit fundamental to joke writing. Like you need to do a setup. You have a basic premise that you establish. I think of an example, but like
Airplane food.
whatever it may be, if you think
Joke
of
on the spot.
do you think of any joke, can you think of any joke that you like? I mean, it'd be good to illustrate it, but like
Basically, for everyone like me who's not funny, how
yeah.
can we be funny? That's
Yeah,
the
I understand. I mean, like Chris Rock made a joke about O.J. Simpson. I'm not saying he killed her, but I understand. Right? Now that's kind of funny, but then he proceeds to give all of these examples of how I mean, it's a controversial already, so everyone's
Right.
like on their toes. But like, now in the end of the day, he had to pay $100 million in civil penalties for such and just when she left. Now I'm not saying he killed her, but I understand. And he does a lot of reinforcements of the premise, and keeps proving it to you, you know. And then oftentimes, when you have a punchline coming, it's sometimes about like, you know, if we're geeking out on what comedy is, it's like you don't see it coming. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bit of a deceptive kind of release, and that's what makes people laugh because you set up something to go one way and then you surprise them with another. It's like a magic trick. So magicians operate the same way, where they're setting up an illusion thing, and then something happens. You're like, oh, like I didn't see that. So there's a trickery to comedy, and most of the time when you're watching comedians, I'm just trying to think of a joke that would illustrate it well, but like, I don't know. Can't think of one on the spot. If you think of any good jokes that you really like,
But if the whole purpose of it, or
You know.
the way it works, is that you're surprising someone,
like Mark Norman has a joke. I'll credit him. He's like, and a lot of people have said versions of this joke, but he was like, you know, so I met my wife is Jewish. I met her on that Jewish dating app, PayPal. Simple, right? Super tight. Now Mark Norman's a super tight joke writer, one after
Right.
the other.
A similar
Punches,
one is
punches.
Sebastian's going to his wife's Seder.
Right.
That's a big one.
Right. So Sebastian's writing is like very animated, and he has like I love his stuff.
cracker.
It wouldn't be
When's
funny.
the food coming out?
It wouldn't be funny if most people said it though.
Right. Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, his delivery and his comedic performance
He
adds
jumps
a
around
lot to it,
stage,
but it's
yeah.
a very funny concept of like being an Italian who loves food at a Pesach Seder, like the antithesis of like
An Italian meal.
of
yeah.
indulging in amazing food. Because I'm sitting there, crackers, terrible. I'm going. My wife's Jewish. She takes me to the Pesach Seder. We sit down. I'm starving. And if you know a Pesach Seder, that's already funny because you know what's to come. It's like, I'm starving. We start sitting down having food. Terrible. Crackers, salt water, parsley. I'm like, what are we doing? Oh, are you ready to eat? Yeah, first we read for 2 hours. 2 hours. You know,
that was word for word.
yeah.
right?
And then he's like,
Honestly,
and
probably.
he's like, I'm Italian. I need some bread when I'm sitting down. I need some bread within 2 minutes and I'm sitting down.
Low-key,
But I
he's
think at the end, give
basically
me a
Ari Matty.
meatball or
Yeah.
something. We should have Italians cater to Pesach Seder. That's the payoff.
But I feel like that's so much of what comedy is. It's just discussing experiences that everyone shares and everyone knows. But how do comedians take experiences or like you know what I'm talking about type of thing
Mhm.
and make it funny? Like what? Like you could someone just say like, you know, it's so funny. Like, you know, airplane food sucks. But like that's not funny. How does someone turn an experience that everyone, you know, shares
you're
funny?
getting at like the root of like funny at its core, down to the atoms,
We're going to the core.
What is the funny?
down to the element,
What
which
is fun?
becomes hard. That's like, why is a melody good?
Right, I guess so.
Why does it sound good? Well, there's like scientific reasons why it sounds good. Why does that food taste good? Why
Well,
is chocolate good?
So think about it from a
Chocolate's
process
good because
perspective.
chocolate's good. Why is funny funny? Because it's funny. But, you know, there's ways to build upon that. It's almost like there's elements to it. It's hard when you get down to the atomization of it and the real elements of it.
Without getting so deep, I'm saying like, let's say you're preparing a set
Yeah.
along those lines. Like,
Yeah.
how do you prepare the set?
Yeah, you're illustrating things that are kind of relatable and everybody connects to.
Is it always
But
universal?
you know, you see things in life and you go, that's the first thing.
Right.
When you go,
Right.
you know, there's plenty of things on an LL flight that are observably funny, right? And if you have a good instinct for it, like that's what you're trying to pick up on. Like, what's funny about an LL flight?
Mhm.
Like, you ask yourself. I mean, there's plenty of things.
For me, I think it's the non
Yeah.
the non kosher bread, or it's still kosher.
Yeah,
It looks so much better, and they
Right.
give you like this like little roll.
Right. But for the Glock kosher meal, that's
Yeah, yeah,
triple
yeah, yeah.
wrapped. And you're like, you need
I'm
a
like,
saw
just
to
give me
get
the
it
pizza.
open.
Just give me that
Yeah.
pizza that everybody else is getting.
Yeah.
How do you turn that into a joke?
So then beyond that, if you zoom out, that's funny observationally. What is it? What is the implication of that? If you're thinking and if we're workshopping a joke, you're like, it's not fair how they treat the Frummer Jews. We always get the raw end of the deal. We just do. I thought being Frummer meant we score points with God, but it turns out we always get shat on in real life. Like the Frummer you get, you know, it's just not fair. The less fun you can have. And that's like the macro, bigger thing. And that joke sits inside that premise. You're establishing that, like, the more observant you are, like, the less fun you have. or you could flip it, and maybe the big secret is we actually have more fun. Here's why, but you have to prove that.
I had a funny realization,
So
but I
like
had no
that's
idea
where
how to turn it
that
into a
funny
joke.
observation sits, and then you have a lot to play with. Like in what ways? Like Elon Gold has some good material about that. He was like, yeah, let's take the 3 weeks in the summer, when you're supposed to have all the fun you have in this limited time, and just say, can't do any of the fun things you want to do. Swimming, no. Like that, he talks about that. Like
Barbecue.
we
Smart.
have found a way to make Judaism, which is difficult in and of itself, that much less
So
enjoyable.
smart.
And that's what your LL joke is like.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's not just the role and they get a better role. What does it really mean? It means like, why do we just love to punish ourselves? We are just masochistic beings. We will put, it's boiling outside. Let's put on an extra layer underneath made of wool. Yeah. We're like that Jews are like love pain. Jews love pain. Let's get married so we can like sleep with our wives and have sex. And you're like, no. Half the month. Oh, no. Like we love pain. And like maybe that's your real premise. Religious Jews love pain. We love pain.
Standing up there in the
At
hall.
8 days old, we love pain. Cut it off.
Yeah, and you
See?
you touch on that a lot also. Yeah, like what I
There's
just said,
barely
the
anything
Yom
there.
Kippur,
I don't care. Cut it off.
the Yom Kippur davening.
I only have
bit
one
that you
son. Kill him.
made.
What was the
Jews
Yom
love
Kippur
pain.
bit?
I'm on LL.
The
Give me
Jason-
the stale bread. I love pain. You see where we got to?
Right. Like
Make
the Jay
sense?
sketch.
That's crazy.
Zoom out. And you'll
What's the
find
payoff
it.
there?
Hmm?
What's the payoff?
What do you mean?
End? You said or the punchline, not the payoff.
The punch.
Right.
Yeah.
All those were little punchlines. Everything I said to you of like, I'm proving a premise. We
You don't need
love
the
pain.
end
If I
to be
just
the
said we love
punchline.
pain over and over again, I'd say it, no one's laughing. But if I said every example, think about it. 8 days old, just a baby, cut it off.
Would you want it to stack and get
You
increasingly?
could get increasingly crazier, but you're proving a premise and you're setting it
Mhm.
up. These are the kind of things you're thinking about.
But then they're expecting something crazier.
What's that?
They're expecting more crazy
Yeah. So
as you build that up.
and that requires you to be
Funnier?
creative.
Mm.
To think of things that are so absurd or that wouldn't necessarily tie in, but if you find a way, it can be funny.
Like I had another observation that it's funny to me, but I don't know how to make it objectively funny.
Mm.
Like your head is the first thing to get, hot, and your feet are the first thing to get cold. Nobody says you have a cold head, and nobody says you have hot feet. Like people do, but like, how do you make that funny?
I don't know if your feet are the first thing to get cold. Is that true?
My feet are cold.
I think so.
But nobody says what? Say it again.
Nobody says you have hot feet.
Cold feet.
Everyone
yeah.
says you have cold feet. That's a
Right.
known expression.
Hmm.
Everyone says you're getting cold feet.
But nobody says
Everyone says cold feet.
no.
So
But
that's
nobody
what
says hot feet.
But your feet, you just said, are the first things to get cold.
Yeah.
And so you've found problems in your process. So you have to figure out a different angle
Mm.
because cold feet is a known expression. So if you said no one says cold feet, everyone would disagree with you.
Wait, no. I wasn't saying that. I was saying your head is the first thing to get hot,
Mm-hmm.
and your feet are the first thing to get cold. But you don't say it the other way. Because if you did, then nobody would say it that way. They
Correct.
say you have like a cold head. Okay, fine. But hot feet.
I'm not with you yet.
Yeah, Usher.
I'm obviously
no.
not funny.
What
No.
are you looking for there?
Like the whole feet thing. People are crazy about feet.
People are crazy about feet. How so?
They say, I don't know, the whole feet finder thingy.
What's the whole feet fight? I'm not
Oh,
being
really?
mean. I'm
Oh,
just
okay, fine.
asking.
People are like attracted to feet or toes.
People have a foot fetish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you know what a foot fetish is.
I do. I guess people are attracted to feet. Not everybody though.
Not
It's
everybody.
kind of divisive. Some people are attracted to feet, which is interesting because
It's weird. I don't know. That's funny.
it is kind of funny that some people are
Yeah.
attracted to feet. That's kind of true.
How do you find universal funny then?
I would say like some people are attracted to feet, and I feel bad for those people because like they can never tell what's under there. Like people who like breasts, they can know, but with feet, you really have to wait to find out if you're going to be into it, because like you can't say, "Damn, look at those triple D feet," You see?
Yeah.
There you go. A little masterclass on comedy.
I'm learning right now.
I'm not. I don't know if that's the funniest joke, but maybe there's something funny in the fact that people who have
I
foot
find that really
fetishes
funny.
have a hard time finding what their match because you can't really see the feet
Mm.
until you see the feet.
It's like sneeze.
But
This
people
is
who
actually
are-
an ad for
People who
for
are
feet
into
finding.
like butts and boobs, like I don't know if we could. This is a From
It's probably
podcast.
all gonna get cut out. Not gonna lie.
We'll see.
People who are whatever. There's things that are available to you when you're attracted, and things that aren't, and that's a whole funny area. There's a whole, Bunch of things to be discovered.
Is it more of like the shock factor of like what people don't expect you to talk about? And then you say it out loud and you're like, what the heck?
Of people would, I'm sure there's certainly things that are shocking and make things funny. Yeah, I mean,
But it's not entirely like a shock factor.
I would say that
You said it's almost like the
there is a
deception.
punchline works if you don't necessarily see it coming. It's pretty effective if you can do that. That's kind of what makes something funny, or maybe the opposite, like reaffirming something, or getting somebody to think about something in a way they haven't thought about it, or you've proven something to somebody when they doubted you at first.
Hmm.
It's like, what do you mean Jews love pain? Oh my God, they really do love pain.
Right.
You know, that's
Yeah.
astute observation, and I'm laughing because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to see it that way. Like Seinfeld talks about, what's your angle? You're shining an angle. Like you're seeing something in a way that people don't see. It's right in front of them. And I guess the surprise is that was right in front of me and I didn't see it. Or we all saw it and we've never, and this guy's articulated it. And that's why we're laughing.
I want to go back
Yeah.
to cold feet for a second.
Yeah.
Do you ever get nervous before going on either? I guess I want to split it between going on stage for like playing music or going on stage for stand up.
Music, not really anymore because I have so much time in it that I've been in the game such a long time on the music side that I feel reliably confident going in every time. And music is a more controlled environment because people
It's rehearsed
it's
also.
rehearsed in advance
Right.
before anyone is seeing it, and it provides an element of protection and armor. You're with other people, and if people aren't into it, like, you know, it's not the end of the world. You don't feel it as viscerally and painfully as a rejection as with comedy. When you're alone, you've had to practice your bits in front of people and not in private. You really don't know if a joke's going to land until you experiment it with the crowd. And it's environment dependent in a way and audience dependent in a way music isn't. And I've been in the game a little less, so like I'm still, you know, putting in my 1,000 hours, so to speak.
Do you have any stories of sets that you've had, let's say comedy sketches that didn't perform as well as you wanted them to?
Comedy sets?
Yeah.
Plenty. That's how you learn how to do stand-up.
What's it like to bomb?
It sucks. It just is very painful and is required.
I was going to ask is it necessary?
There's no other way to learn how to do stand-up other than to get up and try in front of people to make things work. You can't practice at home the way you can with music.
You could still bomb with music. Like
Hmm?
you play it and you're like, no, this
You can bomb with music,
If you make a
but you
mistake, yeah.
shouldn't
Right.
because you've had every opportunity before you get on stage to prepare. But comedy requires a bombing process or a working out process in a way that I would say music, which I also know well, doesn't. You know if you can play the song start to finish before you get on stage. And if you can't, you shouldn't play it on stage yet. The music tells you if you're ready or not. Things can fall apart on stage and whatever, but I really haven't had a bombing period with music. By the time I was playing on stage, you know, I didn't allow myself to be not prepared, at least at a minimum.
What's going through your head when you're on stage? Are you thinking a lot about I want to talk more about comedy because comedy is more of like an intricate, nuanced type of performing.
Sure.
What's going through your head? Like, are you like thinking like, oh, did they like the joke? Did they not like the joke? Like, am I doing well? Am I not doing well? Or are you trying to just like
Yeah,
think
the
about the
better it's
routine?
going, the less you're thinking.
I guess
the
so,
better
yeah.
it's going, the more you're like actually present.
But the problem is that if one small tiny thing maybe goes
Yeah.
wrong, then you kind of get into a snowball.
you
in
could,
thought.
or you also have to recover and acknowledge the, ooh, you guys are tight.
Right. That's fine. I like it when
You know,
comedians
there's
do that.
recoveries you
I know,
can
a
do.
tough crowd.
It's like boxing, you know. Sometimes you punch, so you punchline. That's why you call it that. You want it to land, so you go and got him. Ooh, missed. Block, dodge, come back.
Got it.
Or,
Have you seen
know.
people that like just quit that would have had potential from bombing too hard, too often? It doesn't seem so inspiring to keep on going if it's like you need that one time. It's like every time.
I
that
mean,
you're
yeah,
funny,
if you're bombing for 5 years, 10 years straight, it can be quite
but you see on Kill
discouraging.
Tony, they're still there. They're like, yeah, I've been doing comedy for 5 years, and like,
Yeah, there's
5
something
years?
about comedy that is a little addictive and keeps you coming back for it. It has its own kind of drug effect for when you do well. But it's not for the faint of heart, you know? It's like you get on and you have to be able to tolerate that feeling of being, you have to be able to withstand the bombing.
To help you
Um,
build confidence or something.
I think so, yeah.
What do you think motivates people who aren't funny to go up on stage and do stand up? Like some people just don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm probably one of those people. I cannot do stand up.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of people who just, I can tell, are not universally not funny, but
Right.
they still like on Kill Tony, exactly. Like what motivates those type of people to go up? Do they want to like what do you think?
The same thing that probably motivates me, but it just might not work in their
Right.
case. I don't know. They want to try it. They want to put themselves through that kind of discomfort. I can't get into their heads other than like they want to do it.
What does motivate you?
Maybe they're Jewish.
What's that?
Maybe they're Jewish.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I would say what motivates me, I want to be able to do this well. Yeah, you want to care about the craft, you know, of performing and making people laugh. Music, it's making people feel other things, dance and connect and be moved. And with comedy, yeah, it's something nice about making people laugh. It's a
Beyond
great
the
feeling.
beyond the entertainment value, is there some sort of message or action that you want people to take? A lot of your content is politically, um, not leaning. It's on the topic of politics a lot of
Mhm.
the time. Is there any effect that you want that to have? Do you want people to vote a certain way? Do you want them to
No,
consider
not
certain
really.
things?
It's more all for comedic effect for the most part. Um, with satire, you want people to see something you're seeing, you know? If satire has a political agenda, you're exposing something. So in those cases, I'm not trying to get them to vote, but like I'm trying to get them to see what I see in the most exposed sort of way. And comedy is a very effective way to do that.
Right, and a lot
Mm.
of your content is just meaningful.
Mhm.
So there has to be some sort of
That
you
stuff
have
isn't for funny's sake, it's to make a serious point. But it's
yeah.
all revolves around something true. Like comedy exposes some kind of truth for the purposes of making someone laugh. If I'm talking about something serious, I'm also trying to like hash away what I see as true for the purposes of making somebody think and like, evaluate.
Do you
And
feel a sense of responsibility that because you have this truth, you need to share it and sort of spread that realization?
yeah, I guess on the commentary, like advocacy stuff, like a responsibility is an interesting word. Like I feel strongly about it, passionately about it. It's important for my own interest as a Jewish person, as a person with strong views about Israel and the Jewish community and the concerns. So responsibility in the sense that I care about my friends, my family and community and the Jewish people as a whole. Like, yeah, a responsibility for myself. Not that they're demanding of me, but if you're given a certain ability to do something, and like I definitely feel myself like driven to do that. Um, and fulfilled to do that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I want to get into the rapid fire round
Mhm.
in one moment. But one thing, really quick thing I want to ask beforehand is what are some future projects, things you're excited about, either in or for both, in both music and comedy? What are some things you're looking forward to?
I'm retiring next month, so I'm just going to move to Florida and chill. So I mentioned before, in about a month from now, I don't know when this episode's out, but mm, my band and I are going to be touring with Mati Shah, which is really great. We have our album that we're pushing and promoting out there, so that's been. And we have more music to finish for our next record after that. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about really building up my live show and hopefully over the next year doing more live dates and promoting and marketing to do my own shows filled with, people who are following me. I'm trying to hone in on that audience a little bit and actually connect with them live. Do, who knows, small theaters, small places, and start to see what happens out there and build up the live show to justify and match that. So I could really kind of put a lot more ammunition into that. My podcast is called Ami's House, and we're building up our guest list. And I like that because it's more long form. I get to discuss these ideas more at length. It's funny, it's light, but we also discuss real things and have different guests. And that podcast is really about taking serious people and being unserious and taking unserious people and being serious. So you can see sides of people you don't get to
I
see.
love that theme.
Whether it's joking around with a generally, like if I had Douglas Murray on the show, we would talk politics, but we'd also, joke around a bit. That's what be public about it. But, you get to see sides of people on my show that you might not get to see in a controlled, interviewed environment. Um, that is the idea there. And building that up, that audience up, the patronage, building that, we're working with some sponsors now. So hopefully grow that and the content game and being more public on the advocacy front too, doing more media stuff, more podcast appearances, and continue along the road.
It's awesome.
Sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the rapid fire, just for people listening, is there one specific podcast show and one specific song of yours that you love and you think people should listen to?
I definitely recommend everyone go check out the Distant Cousins album. It's the first of its kind in our world of doing both English and Hebrew, and there's a bunch of songs on that record that I think are apropos to what the Jewish community has gone through over the last year and reflect sort of how we feel about it. And it's a nice contribution to have, I think, the hybrid English Hebrew stuff. I think it's, as a band that came from sort of the secular world, outside the Jewish world, coming back to the Jewish world, there's been a lot of people who put on a pedestal like the hierarchy of what's cool and not cool in the music scene between Jewish music and then like real music. But we're trying to blur those lines a little bit. So go check that out. Yeah, keep following on the podcast for more episodes. And I'm trying to think of any particular episode that jumps out, but we're excited about the stuff. We've had a lot of great creators on and intellectuals. We had Matisiao on. We had Scott Galloway on. We had, advocates and influencers and all that, all those folks. So that's been cool. And trying to think of anything else in particular. What was the original question? Like
Just one specific song that they could check out and one specific show.
one specific song and one specific. There's a song called Dimati. That one's all in Hebrew on the new record. That one I think really hits a nerve. On Out of the Darkness, available on all streaming platforms. Distant Cousins, and then
Where's the
trying to
name
think of a
from?
specific show. Distant Cousins.
Yeah.
One of my bandmates thought of it as we were writing a bunch of songs together and pitching them to try to get stuff. We needed a band name. Our, Kozak, Swirsky, Rosenblatt was like more of a law firm than a band. But Distant Cousins felt right because we had all come from different bands. One of the members was from Blue Fringe. The other one was from the Moshav band. We all were like observing each other over the years in different bands, and it was familial.
I
Love
thought
the
it might
difference.
be a joke about Jews or something.
It's kind of a thing, We're all distant cousins. It had a familial element to it,
Love it.
So that
All
was
right.
the idea.
Asher, want to lead us into the rapid fire round?
Yeah. So this is our rapid fire section of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's becoming not so rapid fire recently.
Okay, still fun.
It's still fun. Anyways, these are a bunch of like quick questions and just off the head, off the cuff responses. So let's get right into it. You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. When you go to your For You page, what's the first thing you see? What pops up first on your For You page? You can check right now.
On my own For You page?
Yeah.
Nature is metal. Animal, like Komodo dragons, eating a deer while it's still alive.
For real.
Sometimes. Sometimes that happens. There's weird stuff there. Fight videos. We all have that stuff. I forgot. I also watch like chiropractic adjustment videos to fall asleep. Yeah. Ring dingers. Kind of ring ding. Oh, that's a ring dinger right there.
Or turn
Actually,
your
when I
belly
Dr.
into jelly.
Tubio, these guys who like just snap necks in half. I watch all that stuff.
I went to a chiropractor and I was very disappointed.
And if I come across a One Bite Pizza review, I will never not watch the whole thing. Something about it. I have to watch him finish it and rate it. Something.
gotta watch the first bite.
One Bite everyone knows rules. Insane flop to die for. And I have to watch the whole thing on our pizza review.
Crazy.
Flop. Zero flop, Frankie. Zero flop. Look at that. This is my style. This is what I like. Yeah.
New Haven Pizza, that's his favorite,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of impressions. You just did one right now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite impression?
Leave that to the fans to decide, but depending on what's going on, it's like a flavor of the month kind of thing.
What do you like to do? Like, what's like, if you could just do one and people would just like, that's it. One would satisfy.
Well, the Trump was, we're raging in politics, so Donald was very great. And Kamala was, that was fun because it was a woman. And I don't do a lot of women, she, hers. Jordan Peterson is popular, and like, there's not that many that can do that. So that's been good for me, I would say. But it's a complicated question and I don't like the way it's formulated. So that's what I would say. Who else? Douglas Murray is a lot of fun. There's not that many who do Douglas Murray. Douglas.
I actually don't know who he is.
I haven't been
You've seen him. You've seen him.
Who
I
is
haven't
he?
been so
He's a-
public about it, but people of your ilk would ask such a question. Really, you? Yeah, who else? I don't know. I'm trying to think who else on the roster. Yeah, I could do a lot of them. It's an interesting thing. Barack Obama used to do. I used to do that. I did.
You got to bring him back.
Bernie Sanders, of course. Look, rapid fire. We need to not only redistribute this podcast to the 1%, but to the 99% of middle class and working people of this country. Is that such a radical idea? Who else? Bibi Netanyahu is very popular with the Jews, Bibi Netanyahu is a little more grovelly down there. We are going to do everything we can to not abrogate our responsibility to protect Israel and the Jewish people. That is what we're doing. And Bennett is a little more, American, but very subtle accent, That's Bennett. I don't know. Who else?
Gary V.
on some real shit. Gary Vee was really popular for me in the very beginning. I built an entire audience, like, and I really believe this, like, on positivity. Yup.
Can you
Like-
Ty Lopez?
I did a few Ty Lopez videos.
I don't even know what he
early.
sounds like. Like
Hey, I was just here in my garage, you know, just chilling with my Toyota Corolla. Somebody gave it to me. It's no big deal. I just read like 7 books this morning. Whatever. It's no big deal. I don't know who else. Oh, Dave Ramsey. People love the Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey. Yeah. What's your income? What's your income? Let's talk about saving. Are you aware of how absurd the situation is? Are you aware of how absurd? Listen, that is quite a mess, baby doll.
Like he scares people.
Got that Southern love.
Yeah. Yeah, those are fun. That just covers. Prince Harry was popular for a while.
Really?
Yes. It's very disgusting. But there's so much unconscious bias in the selection, obviously. And the same thing happened to Em and I. We had to escape to Montecito. It was hurtful. And I love my brother and I love my family. So I gave you all of them. I don't know. There's more.
Yeah, that was that's pretty much
I
it.
gave a lot.
Very good. If your life had a theme song, what song would it be?
Life had a theme
Crazy
song.
question. I don't know where that came from.
If my life had a theme song, it would probably be trying to think. These are hard because these are
Website
difficult.
said these were good rapid fire questions.
Yeah,
But they're so
DJ
hard to
pulled them.
answer.
I saw him on a
I had a
website like
theme
you
song?
suck, and then he put them all on.
Or if your life were a book, what would be the title?
What?
If your life were a book, what would be the title?
Whoa.
First impressions.
Hmm.
Theme songs wise, just look up the word impression and see what song comes up. It's probably.
Probably something really weird.
Come check this. Come check this.
You beatbox.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a new one.
Who's DJ? Which one's DJ?
That's DJ.
Yeah. Been working on a new one. Little crab scratch, but I don't know if that's. I don't know. Yeah,
That's
I'm
sick.
just flexing.
This is a more serious question. What's your zodiac? And you think we're compatible or no?
Zodiac, like horoscope.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo. I don't buy any of that stuff.
You're not.
Horoscopes are nonsense. Everything is
What about
complementary.
the
and
Rambam?
works. What's that?
Ooh, what about the Rambam?
I don't know. Yeah, he's good. But the zodiac,
Yeah.
Seal of approval.
I like.
everything is always, that makes sense or doesn't make sense. Everything can be fit into these zodiac boxes if you just bend it right.
That's facts. And
You know?
then, what's the worst advice you ever gotten? I'm sure you've heard a lot of advice. And what's the best advice you've ever got?
Advice.
Like you gave us a lot of good advice today. Like personally, like off camera, everything.
Yeah. You really want to look at like trending hashtags and like figure out what your story is. That's the worst advice.
What about it? What about it makes the worst?
What does that mean?
Who's that impression of?
It's just your generic, typical social media marketing person who is like chasing trends.
I feel so
and
outed right
sounds.
now. Not the
Um,
hashtags, but the story bit.
You know, like we want to like, and I need to talk to any PR. They want to figure out what your story is, which is always missing the forest for the trees because it's not rooted in what you're creating. It's just rooted in what you're presenting. And maybe there's some truth and value in that, but I never connect it to any of that kind of advice of crafting your brand and your story. It's like, what are you making? You know, not like, what are you messaging? It's like, what are you making? Like that's the work kind of defines you in my view. But, and the best advice is probably like, stop complaining, get to work, and be consistent every day and make stuff instead of imagining things. Everything is an abstract potentiality until you actually do it. Most of the things are not the thing. Thinking about the thing is not the thing. It's like a modern wisdom, Chris Willings thing. Talking about the thing is not the thing. Writing down the thing is not the thing. Manifesting the thing is not the thing. Only the thing is the thing. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, action. Action speaks louder than words.
Yeah. What's the phrase? I mean, something about like, don't tell people that, you know, like not constantly talking. There's a tall sign that someone's full of it if they're like constantly talking about the things they're doing. Because busy people are actually doing it. And then the work speaks for itself. As opposed to like, yeah, you know, I got this brand, I'm working with this person, I got this director who's like, you know, and then I'm like, you know, I've heard a lot of that.
Like, do something.
you know, if you're actually doing things, you're doing things, and you don't have to.
Was there ever a phase in your life where you're just talking?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you know, you got to BS sometimes, but I learned very quickly who to, like in the beginning when you have nothing, you should be listening more, you know, rather than talking. You should be around people who are doing things and listening and learning and absorbing
Not
and
manifesting.
understanding that. Manifesting's
These are
okay.
funny videos where they manifest something. You know those ones?
Manifesting is kind of an okay practice. I'm not against that. But I just mean like you can spot when people are like talking a whole fluffy game and there's not much going on. I never see anything. And I'm like, okay, you know.
Okay, moving on. How do you like your drink? Still sparkling? I mean, we didn't give you so many options today, so
I always prefer sparkling than not sparkling.
it's risky though, because like burping, whatever, you're like a live session, you just drink a soda, Coke Zero.
I don't like water. Yeah, I don't love water. I'm not such a water guy. I'm like a more Diet Snapple or Diet Coke kind of dude.
They didn't give us the Snapple. That's crazy.
You didn't give it
So
to us?
anyway,
No.
thanks
up.
for this.
Drinks the water, pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Pizza or steak? I feel like you're a meat guy. I'm not sure.
It's a hard one.
Man likes his meat.
Yeah, pizza or steak. Yeah,
You have to pick one.
Do you like pizza?
of course.
Sure. Yeah.
I like it all. Steak. I'll say steak.
I feel like a lot of people say steak and they just
Yeah.
like don't actually like it. It's just like they like it because you're supposed to like steak. Why?
Isn't it?
What's so awesome about steak?
Really? What is awesome about
I'm
steak?
being for real because when I eat a steak, like okay,
Do you
it's
not like
great.
steak?
I love steak.
Yeah.
There's your answer.
No, but I think I might only like steak because like hot take, people are supposed to like steak because it's a nice food.
Mhm.
You should like a medium rare because if you eat it not medium rare, it's disgusting. And it's
Well,
true.
That's true. That's the proper way to cook it for sure.
I don't
It's
know.
down to your evolutionary core.
I'm a chicken guy.
You are?
Yeah.
He's a weak bird. A weak bird for a weak man. Did you see that guy on Rogan who only eats steak and not chicken? He's like a fitness guy.
Really?
He's Russian.
Well,
Wait.
Jordan Peterson on the.
I only
Lion.
eat steak and olive oil, and that's that.
You
But-
only eat raw liver.
yeah.
I
Liver
only
king.
eat
Liver
meat
king.
and I've never been
That was a
sadder
scandal.
and more depressed in
But
my
liver
life.
king, like we eat eggs with the shells odd. But steak is like down to your evolutionary core. Like it's just a piece of meat. You're like tapping into your ancestral self. Like that's
Have you seen the
meat
clip?
over a roasted fire. When you smell it, like you are tapping into the
It smells
ancient
great, yeah.
primal self.
It's like sourdough bread.
Sourdough bread is a
Yeah,
lot.
sourdough bread.
I
That
don't think-
smell
I'm not-
is
I don't
I
think
know
un-
that smells good. I'm
unreal.
talking about the smell of roasted meat. I think triggers something really ancient. The
Wanna
fire.
start pounding your chest.
No, the first men to and women to congregate around fire is like that's how we started hanging.
Yeah, I don't think they had sourdough.
They didn't have sourdough. That's a little.
That's a new thing.
But meat, just kill, bring it home, roast it, eat it. I think that taps into something pretty ancient, which
You
is
mean
why
Neanderthals didn't have sourdough starter?
no,
and,
which is
Dutch
why
ovens?
people like steak. I mean, and fatty cuts. Why do we like fatty cuts and sugar cuts? It's evolution. Because when food was scarce, you had to really eat as much as you could of the entire animal, especially the fat that could last a long time, and then you wouldn't eat for days. That's why we like that stuff. It's evolution. It's wired into our system to like sugar, to like fat, sweets, because we are wired to retain as much calories as possible.
So knowledgeable. It's
It's
crazy.
a big Joe Rogan talking point, I feel.
It's just like animals, bro. We are just wired to be vicious, hungry creatures.
You ever see the Jordan Peterson clip where like he says he eats meat for every meal and he's never been sadder and more depressed?
As a number on your social life. Steak. Steak. I wouldn't recommend it or do it lightly. So,
But he still only eats
well, I
meat.
stop snoring. My skin's better. I sleep better. I piss better. I take clean shits. So, that's what I would say.
Not
I've had-
simple. It's not.
I have
It's
seen the
not
clip.
simple.
Yeah, he's not happy with the journalist who's interviewing him. That's why.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
She
really?
was real nasty. So
Is
he was
that
just
why
like,
you sound like that?
he was ready to get out of there?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought he was like ready to like end life.
I wouldn't
right there.
recommend it. There's a number on your social life. I ate an entire cow last night by myself, including the udders, and it's utterly delicious. Yeah.
So you do music and comedy. So if people didn't know that before this podcast, here you know. If you had to give one up, which one would it be?
That's like which child? Sacrifice one of your children.
You're gonna cut it in half.
We could ask that too.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna pass on that one. You can't. can't cut off parts of your
Not
brain.
a real question.
Not a real question.
All right, fair enough.
All right, next.
Mhm.
What's one thing you can't live without?
One thing I can't live without.
Putting money on his kids or something. Steak.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Once you have kids, you can't live without your kids.
And then
Wife, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know
Well-
if this is gonna be the same answer, but what's your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration.
So godly.
Or who?
He loves God so much.
Either what or who?
Oh, can you do a Sem Girl impression?
Which one?
Sem Girls?
Seminary girls.
Oh, SEM girls. You Gen Zers abbreviate everything. It's SEMGs. You got it wrong. I would shorten it. It's actually Oh my God, I have Hashem so much. Like my biggest inspiration. I just love God. I just love it. I just love God and I love Ragalach. It's amazing. Amazing. What's my biggest inspiration?
Or who?
It kind of answers itself, you know? I don't know. We're only alive for a short little bit of time. So yeah, it's a privilege to get to use the gifts God gave you. I don't take that for granted. The cheesy answer is like, you know, compared to where you come from, grandparents are Holocaust survivors, parents raised them and then us, you know? That's not easy. So pretty spoiled in that way to grow up with the ability and the options to pursue passions rather than out of necessity, but out of, you know, interest. Many generations before us didn't have the luxury of interests. So that's nice.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't have to become an accountant or whatever it may be.
Whatever it is, it's just the idea being that like only 2 generations ago, you know, we're in a very different position. And to grow up with parents who were like supportive of me pursuing these things and encouraging, when they grew up in a time in lower, you know, working class families who were Holocaust survivors who didn't speak English. You know, my dad basically had to raise his parents and affiliate them and do all that stuff and grow up very, very quickly without the consideration of like, what do I want to do in life? Which is a very us kind of question. Back then it was like, what do I need to do to like survive and get out of this?
There's still people like that,
You know.
like in the world.
Of course, but I'm speaking for myself that I was fortunate to be in a supportive family growing up in sort of upper middle class suburban life that allowed me to pursue learning how to play music and learning how to do these things. So, and being encouraged, that's pretty inspiring.
Pretty dope.
Or if inspiring is the right word, but you know, gratitude is a more apropos, I think, descriptor of that. So, yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Nice message to go out on, or
Yeah, we got one last question.
mm-hmm.
If all of your followers were standing in front of you, what would you say to them?
Gratitude. Well, if all my followers were standing in front of me, I'd say thank you.
That happens sometimes, no?
Hmm.
All your followers, like at a show. Like,
All of my followers at a show. There's
Not like all your followers.
140,000 of them. I haven't had 100. I don't know, a couple 100,000 people yet.
What's the
but-
biggest audience you've had so far?
I don't know. I've performed in front of a couple thousand people. I think VCon had a few thousand, or maybe a little less than that. But some big audiences, which has been cool. But if I was really in front of them, I would say, millions and billions of people here. Look at this crowd. Something special we've done. Really unbelievable. And that's what I'd say, at least right now.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Ami, this
Thank
has
you
been
guys.
super,
Lot of
super
fun.
fun. Really appreciate your time and your insight. Awesome conversation, awesome time.
Good schmooze, boys. Good
Yeah,
schmooze.
good stuff. And yeah, looking forward to bigger and better. And yeah, man, keep it up.
Amen. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys. And for everyone watching back at home, thank you so much for watching. And remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned on our latest episodes.